This is Reality Dispatch, written by Jim Mintz.
She stood at the sink and ran the tap over the cereal bowl that held the remains of her 3-year-old's breakfast. There was not much to clean. The boy had a good appetite. At least one of them did these past few weeks. She listened as he rode his toddler bike up and down the hall, laughing, completely oblivious to the darkness that had descended over his future. A future without a father. She had no more tears left to spill, and all that remained was the constant daydreaming, broken only by the little one's squeals. She realized she had been running hot water over the bowl for far too long. She was lying to herself. There was one thing left to do. She found her number among her husband's contacts on his phone. He had hidden her among the names of family, friends, and business associates under the moniker Laundromat. He would have gotten away with it too, if it weren't for the fact that he called this laundromat 3 times a day, every day. That was almost as many times a week as he called Heather, and she was his wife. She stared at the home phone mounted on the wall next to the refrigerator. Then she looked at her deceased husband's phone, which lay dormant on the bench top, unused, quiet, no more calls, no more messages, completely out of reach, incommunicado. Thomas was squealing as he performed a turn on his bike that swung him into the bedroom she had shared with Jarvis. The dog chased him up and down the hallway. She needed the house to be silent if she was going to make the call. She walked over and picked Tommy up, fighting against his stiffened body. He had clasped the bike between his legs as she lifted him, and it too was raised up. "No, no," he yelled. "Not sleepy time." She couldn't even respond in her usual good-natured way. Her mind was too far gone. She didn't zip him into his sleeping bag or close the blinds properly. She placed him down in his cot as he screamed in disappointment and headed for the door. She was so far from her present existence that she almost closed the door with the dog still inside. "Get out, Petey!" she yelled above her son's screams. The dog removed itself from the room, ashamed to have been spoken to so harshly. At the edge of her kitchen bench with her son crying behind the softened walls of the double-brick house, she picked up the landline and looked at the number of the laundromat her husband had dialed so often. She took a deep breath, pressed the digits on the keypad, and waited for the dial tone. "Hello," came the voice, sending a shudder through her heart. "Hello," she replied, not wanting to cause a fuss or disturb the mourning of the woman who had stolen her love away, week after week. "Who is this?" the woman asked. Heather stood there motionless. She looked out her kitchen window and watched the golden retriever ignore its food bowl as it sat in a heap under the warmth of the morning sun. "Can I help you with something?" the woman asked, annoyed. Heather began. "Oh," the woman said, the realization finally clicking. "It's you." "It's me," Heather replied. "You know, I've been waiting for this call since forever," she said. Heather took in a breath. She could hear the ruckus of a child in the background, a 2- or 3-year-old. She wondered if it was her late husband's. Her tears began to swell, the first ones in a week. She had thought she had none left. "So, you know why I'm calling?" Heather said with forced composure. "Yeah, I know." The baby in the background screamed. The woman attended to her child. "Alex, please don't touch that," she said to her infant. "Look, now's not a good time. And for what it's worth, Jarvis broke things off with me last month anyway," she explained. "I am sorry to you for any hurt I caused, you and your family, but you know, what can I say? The guy's a jerk. He should have known better. Alex, please. So you haven't heard?" Heather asked. "Heard what?" Heather pressed her lips tightly. She knew something this woman didn't. Latchoff, the roles had reversed in some perverse way, where she now held a secret. She held the power. She could humiliate her, for once. "You know he still owes me child support. Don't think I'm going to let that go just because he's decided to be Johnny husband all of a sudden," the woman said with scorn. "You won't be getting any money," Heather said. "The hell I won't. You'll be hearing from my lawyer," she yelled. "I look forward to it." The line went dead, and Heather allowed herself a small smile as she placed the handset down on the receiver. As she put her late husband's phone back on the kitchen bench, the ringtone sounded for the first time in 3 weeks. The caller ID read Laundromat. Heather stared at the screen until the call rang out and a message alert appeared, notifying her that a voicemail had been left. Then the phone rang again. Heather placed it to her ear and said nothing. "You son of a bitch!" The woman began. "You know your wife just called me? What the hell is with that?" she demanded. Heather held her breath, determined not to let the secret slip. She was hungry for the power that knowledge had given her. "She said you're not going to pay me child support anymore. Jarvis, you fucking answer me, you son of a bitch!" Heather looked down at the kitchen sink, where the remnants of her son's cereal bowl floated in a pool of hot water. With the nameless woman still shouting, she dropped the device into the water and watched as it sank to the bottom of the stainless steel basin.
For more stories of fact-based fiction, head to jimmins.substack.com.